Let's talk about amusement parks, slide rides and rides in the dark. Rides right here and rides all over, but mostly coasters, mostly coasters. We'll talk about all kind of things, but mostly coasters.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to part 2 of us trying to figure out what a credit is. We lost some men along the way, but you know, we got what we got. No more Zach.
Hopefully this doesn't die before, because this is charging kind of slow. But anyways,
yeah, we'll see if Cliff randomly disappears. You know, it is what it is. You can only do so much. But in this part, we're going to be talking about what different ride types should and shouldn't be considered credits. But yeah, very quickly, we have Sammy over here. Drew below her. So Sammy has an Instagram Q review. Drew has an Instagram, a YouTube. Cliff has an Instagram as well, Analog Thrills. And then we got Jeff. He's a fish. And then we have Dorian, who is a music festival. Now that we have that out of the way, let's get into the video, shall we? All right.
Yay!
First ride type that we're going to talk about, and this is something that has coaster in the title of it, is a powered coaster. Now, Sammy, you are the first in order of the screen. So in less than a minute, go ahead and tell me what you think about powered coasters and whether or not you think they are a credit. Hello?
She's muted.
Okay, I'll read it. They are a credit if they have gravity involved. So I'm assuming that is going to be a yes from you. Drew, do you have anything to add to that?
I think they're not a credit,
Okay.
especially if it's like powered through the whole ride. Like it would become an omni-mover attraction at that point. Honestly, it's just a faster dark ride, realistically. And I mean, there's dark rides nowadays that go 20 miles an hour. So I personally wouldn't count powered coasters as credits. That's just me.
I'm gonna agree with the point that it is powering you through so much of the layout that it is hard to say that it is a roller coaster.
Now I can agree with the gravity aspect, though.
I think it's tough. I haven't been on a traditional powered coaster, so I can't say one way or the other. But I think with that, my minute is up as well. So Jeff, what do you think about powered coasters and whether or not they are a credit?
I don't think they are, because the critical definition of a roller coaster has to do with coast. And I mean, things might not, and basically something has to use its own velocity and not an incoming energy source. And so I think if you're powering it through the way, it's not really coasting at any point in time.
Yeah, I don't know what the percentages are, like how much of the layout it's powered through, how much it freely coasts through. But just from looking at them, it looks like they go like the same speed throughout the entire thing with maybe like a 1 or 2 mile per hour difference. So Cliff, what is your opinion on whether or not the power coaster or no?
Well, this goes back to the intention. And I do think that, like, I'm willing to let go of some of my logic and appeal to exactly what the manufacturer wants, and they often manufacture them and market them as roller coasters. It sounds dumb. It sounds completely unlogical. I get it. I would agree with all of you guys entirely, but I am a credit hoarder.
Yeah, as am I.
Hoarder.
Okay, so you're gonna
So yeah, I think to some extent you can. There's so many cans of worms you can open up with that, but like before my minute's up, like I kind of do, you know. Okay.
Dorian, what do you think?
He's on mute.
Okay. So Sammy, credit or not?
Yes.
Okay. I'm technically next on the screen, so I'm gonna go ahead and say no. But definitely, it definitely could go either way. Drew.
I'm going to say no.
Okay, 2 no's, 1 yes. Jeff.
I'm going to say no as well.
Okay, Cliff.
I'm going to say yes.
Okay, so 3-2. Dorian, what do you think?
Yes.
Oh.
He thinks they are a credit. Okay.
Dorian just changed.
No. Interesting typo. There you guys have it. Powered coasters, according to us, not coasters. Another ride type that does have coaster in the title. I don't know if the official make of the ride, according to the manufacturers, has it as a coaster. Cedar Point counts it as a coaster. And these are disco coasters, the likes of Pipe Scream, at Cedar Point and Tiki Twirl at California's Great America. I personally do not think these are coasters, but by golly, I think they are about as close as you can get without actually being one, even more so than your traditional powered coaster because of the change in speed and the fact that I feel like Jeff says it uses its own velocity or maintains its velocity, whatever he said.
I think the proper physics term is momentum.
Momentum,
I am not
that's
a
what
physicist.
it is. I feel like the what would I guess consider be launches get it up to a point and it carries that momentum throughout a majority of the layout until it needs a little boost again. So I feel like it is almost just a like multi launch coaster. Sammy, what are your thoughts on these attractions?
Personally, I don't feel like I know enough to really form an opinion. Just
I can agree with you on that one and the last one.
Yeah. If I had to say, I'd probably say yes.
Okay. And I think that's totally fair. I feel like these more than any, I am very sympathetic to the opposing viewpoint.
I agree with pretty much everything you said, Mario. I mean,
well, I am right all the time, so it's hard to disagree with me.
But like, I personally don't think they're coasters, and I can totally see why people would say they are. You know,
but fantastic attractions, man.
I love them.
I'd rather get on these than most family coasters and a lot of
I'm sad
kiddie
we missed
coasters.
the one at Cedar Point. We should have stopped there instead of.
Well,
waiting
I mean,
for
when you have so many other real
hours.
coasters, it's hard. But Tiki Twirl is a fantastic flat ride, one of my favorite.
Oh, I love Tiki Twirl.
Jeff, what do you think about these disco coasters?
Yeah, I mean, they obviously move on their own momentum for some time. My only concern is with the seating style, because it almost seems like it's kind of... Because I know you can't define a roller coaster by its seats, because it's almost what a spinning coaster is.
Right, yeah,
But
exactly. That's what I would say to that argument.
Seating style has to disqualify it. But I think...
Does it, though?
Discos and other similar ride models are more coaster than not, so I'll say coaster.
Yeah, totally fair.
Yeah.
Cliff?
If it rolls, if it coasts, if there is momentum,
there's wheels and track.
And there's wheels and track. And
well, I mean, momentum. That's something with mass and velocity.
Yeah. I personally do consider them credits.
Again, perfectly fair. Yeah. So I don't know what the total tally was, but I think coaster won out, which I think is totally fair.
Definitely didn't expect it.
It's hard to argue with that. They function so similarly to most traditional multi-launch coasters. If traditional multi-launch coaster is a phrase that makes sense.
And the big one is that I'm sorry if I'm breaking my time. Again, this does come down to manufacturer intention. I know manufacturer intention does kind of consider these flat rides. It is an arbitrary thing.
Okay,
I can't keep using that word, arbitrary.
So disco coasters, according to this panel, coasters. I don't have a problem with that at all, even though I disagree. I just disagree like 1%. Honestly, all the arguments you guys made are very, very solid. Okay, now we're going to get into one that people will probably hunt me down and smack me in the face for even including in this video. But they do fall into the similar guidelines of the last two coasters that we talked about. And these are super loops. I'm going to leave my opinions for the end. I'm going to leave my opinions for the end. So we'll go ahead and again start off with Sammy. What do you think about super loops? And are they accredited? Are they not?
Not necessarily. I feel like there's too much like controlled movement happening.
Too much lack of like just freely moving.
Yeah, like traversing a track kind of. It's more like there's like the operator is controlling kind of the experience in a way. Plus it's just a big circle. So.
Okay. So Drew, what do you think, man? Coaster? No.
I can't. I just can't. To me, it's not a coaster. Personally, it is definitely a flat ride.
Yeah.
And I mean, they're still fun as all heck. I mean, that hang time is so good if you get it right, but it is completely controlled by an operator in most cases. And
how is it different from being controlled by a mechanical system?
Stop trying to argue against me, Cliff. I don't like this.
Cliff, you can argue against him once it comes to your time.
But like,
I know.
It just seems like a small powered coaster to me, if anything, if you even want to call it a coaster. But like, I don't even know what the wheel assemblies are like. I have no idea what
Exactly
they
the
look like 'cause
same
they're on
as
the
most
inside.
roller coasters. There's a
Okay.
wheel on top, wheel on the side, and wheel on the bottom.
Well, I've never
So
even
very
known.
similar to a roller coaster in that respect.
Okay. I just
Like a
personally
car.
see them as flat rides. I mean,
Okay.
I'm not going to argue anything right now because I know Cliff's going to destroy my argument.
All right.
Nah.
Well, with that being said, we'll get a little bit closer to Cliff. Jeff, what do you think?
I think it comes down to the anatomy of the ride. I'm gonna say that because I like biology, but if I'm not mistaken.
Now, boy rides have.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, I didn't mean to cut into your minute. Go on.
If I'm not mistaken, it's basically a rigid circle, which the train's attached to, inside of another rigid circle. And so you basically have the smaller circle moving inside the larger one. And I think that for the most part, that's rolling, but it's not coasting because it's not really moving.
I agree.
And so
I'm on the fence. So I'm making my decision based on what you guys say.
So I'm imagining the traditional roller coaster has to like move like in an X or Y direction, like forwards or backwards or side to side. And I mean, if we're going to consider the car part of the roller coaster, that's just the inner circle. And so it's not really moving, it's just rotating.
Okay. Yeah. It doesn't move along a 3-dimensional plane. If you think about it, it moves along a 2-dimensional one. It just moves like up the Y-axis and across the X-axis, but there's no like Z-axis involved.
And I mean, even if we're going to define the train as
right,
the
you
train
got 10
part,
seconds.
The train part and the circle, then it's not even really moving. It's just rotating in
right.
itself.
The train is staying in the same spot. It's just a different part of the train in that same spot because it
put
is
on
all
its side-
connected.
If you put it on its side like this, would you consider it a flat ride or a roller coaster?
That's an interesting point.
Up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, then it's hard. Then it's not really using gravity to move itself at all.
Exactly.
But with all that, Cliff, what do you think?
Does
You
it
are the
move-
You are the most credit hoardery one so far. I think you and Sammy are both more on the side of things are credits as opposed to things are not.
The thing is, are there moments in which the coast?
Goodbye.
Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! I think Cliff was going to start arguing in the for them being coasters, and I think RCDB kind of just tapped into his phone and was like, "Hey, you leave super loops out of this.
That's illegal."
I'll hop in for Cliff because I think I know the viewpoint he was going to go with is similar to what he was saying with powered coasters. Is there a point in which it's freely rolling? And I would argue yes, even if the drive tires are in contact with it, the drive tires can be in a like sort of neutral state. Where if you think about it, if your car is being in neutral and you have it on top of a hill, it's still going to roll down that hill using gravity. And the drive tires may be in contact with the train, but the train is still moving otherwise freely and being almost unhindered by that neutral drive tire being in contact with the train. So for all purposes, except for what I personally consider them to be, I would say it is a coaster. And y'all are going to unsubscribe to me for it. But I feel like if you take so many of the technical things into consideration, it does roll, it does coast, and it is very unassisted when the joystick is in neutral.
Final tally, though?
Yeah, final tallies. I am going to go against my own personal counting of credits. I do not count the only one I've been on as a credit, but I am still going to say that, yes, they are credits and contradict the hell out of myself. Sammy, what do you say?
No.
Okay, we have a yes and a no. Drew, what do you say?
No.
Okay, so we have 2 no's and a yes. Jeff, what
But I
do
understand.
You say?
No, they're
I
not.
completely understand.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm outnumbered. Dorian, you can go ahead and chime in regardless. Superloop credit or no? Okay, well, it doesn't matter because this panel sans Cliff, which I think Cliff was going to be on my side, but regardless.
Yeah, he's probably going to say yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we are saying Superloops.
God, please, no!
Okay, fair enough. That is a very, very applicable
Okay, copyright.
soundbite. It's a Michael
No, God,
Scott
please, no.
resounding no from us. Skyline attractions, the Skywarp and whatever Tidal Twister is called. What do you guys think as far as those being credits? Sammy, you're on the clock.
Yes, just because personal opinion kind of a thing. I think there's also kind of some gravity involved, and in a way. Like I think there's as long as there's gravity and it coasts in some concept, like unassisted, I'd say yes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Drew, what do you think?
I think they are powered coasters, and therefore they are not coasters.
I'm gonna have to agree with you on
Or not
that
a credit. Sorry, they you can count them as coasters, but personally they are not a credit for me.
One. I agree with that because upon thinking about it yesterday, and thinking
They're
about whether or
constantly
not
in contact
powered
with the
coasters are.
tires.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jeff, what are your thoughts, my man?
I think this is going to be another physics question. And so what I've heard, at least from, I believe, an interview with one of the manufacturers, there is about 5 feet like in between where it's not powered.
I don't think I agree with that upon like looking at it multiple different times, multiple different angles.
I haven't seen it myself. I'm just saying that's what I think he said. But I'd argue
oh no. RCDB is getting to Jeff too. They're like, we have it on RCDB. You can't change our minds. RCDB is gonna hack all of us by the end of this. What were you saying, Jeff? Let's see if you're back.
Oh no.
Oh, you're back.
Okay.
We're good.
Better?
Be quick before.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was robot-y.
Even if there is an area where it's not powered, I don't think that the momentum or the velocity due to gravity, or I guess the force due to gravity, is significant enough to call it powered by gravity.
So basically, you don't think like 1% of the ride should classify the coaster.
I don't even think that the amount powered by gravity is would even be measurable.
Gotcha.
And if it is, it's so little, and its impact is so little on the ride experience.
Okay.
That it's not going to really change things.
Gotcha.
So I'm going to say no.
What are your thoughts? Okay. So I'm pretty sure Dorian's aside, I'm pretty sure Sammy is the only yes, it is a credit.
Which is weird because more people counted Super Loops than Skyward. Like that's why.
Well, if you
I really don't know.
For me, it comes down to the free movement of the thing. What were you saying, Jeff? We'll wrap it up.
Here's my logic. If you count the powered coaster as a coaster, I don't see how you cannot count a Skywarp as a coaster.
That's how I'm looking at it too, quite frankly. It's a powered coaster. Alpine coasters. Has anyone been on an Alpine coaster out of this group?
Been on an Alpine slide.
We'll get to those next. Don't worry. Okay, so no Alpine coaster riders here. I don't think there's much to be said as far as Alpine coasters go. Does anyone have anything to add other than just whether or not they think they're a coaster?
I think they're a coaster.
That's. I mean, it's a single seat coaster, and it's a coaster in my book. Let's just get to the vote. Does anyone? I'll give you 3 seconds. If you don't think it's a credit, say I don't think it's a credit. Okay, unanimous then. But moving on from Alpine coasters, we're going to get into some weird territory here with Alpine slides. I'm just going to go ahead and open with this one. I think I think they're coasters, man.
You would.
Alpine what?
Alpine slides. If you don't know what they are, I'll put one on the screen right now. Not for you, Dorian.
Because I can see that.
But I'll explain it for you. It's basically an Alpine coaster.
No.
Don't be
swaying him.
Dude, I am going to. It's an Alpine coaster combined with a bobsled coaster. So it is a single. In my opinion, and this is why I would consider it a coaster, which is stupid. I don't currently consider it in my count, though.
This is basically like a what's it called?
It's a bobsled coaster mixed with an Alpine coaster. It's a single seated bobsled coaster. That's my argument.
Exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Sammy, what are your thoughts? Because I know you've been on the same ones that I've been on at Magic Mountain. In Big Bear.
Big Bear. I counted it, yes, but more or less just because it's like I just kind of count whatever I can get to. Sort of.
Okay.
Sammy just wants all the credits.
Yeah.
I think after I get to like my certain kind of like goal of coasters where I've ridden more things, I would kind of delete it from my list as it's like this is a slide. Like this is like there's no lift hill. Like you have to physically take a ski lift up to there.
For me, it has wheels. It goes along a course that is like predefined, and it uses gravity.
That's true though. Yeah, that's
Drew, what do you think?
I think.
Well, I mean, I even said I don't count it, but I do think it's like it falls in like the category of a coaster, man.
I can totally understand. I personally don't count them, even though I've never been on them.
Yeah.
But like they are even on coaster. They are marked as Alpine Slides. They are marked all over the map. So there's definitely a good chunk of people that think they are worthy of being called a credit. You comparing them to the bobsled coaster makes complete sense. It really does. But then also I could probably compare it to me taking my scooter and riding down a slide.
I mean, that is true. It does get into a weird gray area
I can compare it to that little Playmobil set that has the triple down and the little
That's a roller coaster.
And then that's where
that's a credit, man. What are you talking about?
That's where credit counting gets absolutely insane and ridiculous and stupid.
Credits are literally just street cred as like disguises.
Oh, yeah.
Honestly, that's a fantastic way of putting it. It has credit in the name and everything. It's just nerdy coaster street credit.
If you don't count the Playmobil triple down as a credit, you're not my friend.
Okay. Jeff, what do you think?
I think it has to do with how you define a coaster.
Absolutely.
And how you define track. So I'm looking at an Alpine coaster or an Alpine slide and a bobsled coaster. The track for a bobsled coaster kind of curves up and in to prevent the car from sliding out if there was some weird physics going on. But if I'm not mistaken, Alpine slides don't have a mechanism that kind of prevents the slide from kind of
That's
rolling
true. It's
out.
very easy to fly off of those.
And so it depends what your definition of track is.
I would say a side friction coaster then would have the same definition of track as a bobsled coaster. Yeah, because it doesn't have anything to prevent it from coming up.
So
it has
I would
no upstop
argue
mechanism. But whereas Jeff is saying that bobsled coasters do have a sort of upstop.
So I'd say that bobsled coasters are coasters just because the trough they're in has like an upstop and it's some way to prevent it. I'd call that a track. Versus the Alpine slide kind of gutter thing, it's not really a track. It's more of a trough.
Okay, perfect. Dude, just inside of that minute. And then Dorian, what do you think aside from the Playmobil coasters?
I want to go on one now.
They're fun. They're fun. I highly recommend them. If you ever pass one, even if you don't consider it credit, you don't need to do it for the credit. It's a good time, and I highly recommend them.
Definitely.
I consider it a ride.
But not a credit.
I don't, sure.
We'll get a final tally. Sammy, credit or no?
Yes, for now.
Me, I say yes as well, even though I don't currently count it.
Yeah.
Drew says no. Jeff?
Say no.
Jeff says no. And Dorian? You're the tiebreaker on this one. Nope. Okay, so they are not credits. I agree with that, and they don't. But like, yeah, totally fair. Okay, so bobsled coasters, the coaster that we were cross-referencing. I am obviously, for a lot of the same reasons, going to say it is a coaster. So that's the end of my discussion, Sammy.
Yeah.
Coaster? Okay. And Drew, you already said, yeah, it is a coaster. Anything else?
That's mainly just because of track and not allowing you to potentially fly out. Or also something that was not mentioned is the fact that it has pretty much the same track as a side friction coaster in moments with the block brakes and also the chain lift. And so
it has a lot more traditional coaster elements.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, bobsled coasters, I'm assuming you're going to say yes, right?
Yeah, they are. I'd just say the only difference between a bobsled coaster and a regular coaster is that in a regular coaster, the wheels like fit the track, while on a bobsled coaster, there's more leeway, but I don't think that detracts from rolling and coasting.
Right. Okay. Dorian, thoughts?
Coaster.
Okay, for sure. So everyone's saying a coaster, and I think it's hard to argue with that one. Now we're going to get into a little more of a gray area with water coasters. So sort of your journey to Atlantis, where it floats through a section of the layout and also does roll and coast through a section of the layout. I say it greatly depends on how much of the ride is floating versus track. I feel like that at least 25% of it needs to be on where it is rolling versus floating. But I would say if I have to generalize, I'm going to go ahead and say yes, water coasters are coasters. Sammy?
Yeah.
And I don't mean the slide type. I don't mean like the, you have water jets that shoot you up a tube. We're not talking about those types. We're talking about, like I said, Journey to Atlantis and the likes of those. Sammy?
Yeah. I'd say yes, unless you're at the point where it's like, oh, it's just a brake run or whatever the coaster, I guess.
Yeah, if it's just rolling through a brake run.
Yeah, free.
Okay, for sure. Drew, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a credit for sure. Yeah, I mean, as long as a good chunk of it is, roller coaster-y,
right?
And not just floating around for 95% of the ride, and there's a chain lift. Like I would even maybe go against Journey to Atlantis at like SeaWorld San Antonio, maybe potentially, because a are that ride
is most of that you're just sitting.
But
most of it is spent on the roller coaster track. You are turning on a turntable. So I think, there's definitely a ton of gray areas with this.
It's debatable, but like with SeaWorld San Diego in specific, coaster 100% of the way.
For sure. Jeff?
Yeah, I'd say that the Journey to Atlantis coasters at all three are coasters because there's a portion where they coast. My only question would be if it was just like a lift hill, a turnaround, and a drop, would that be a coaster? I still think it would because you still have the train's going to be riding on that rail during the drop. So I feel like it would be, although that would be a little bit more of a gray area. But since all of the Atlantis coasters have a section where it's just a train moving on track powered by gravity, I feel like they're all coasters.
Okay, for sure. And then Dorian?
Coaster.
Yeah. Okay. So I think we're all in agreement that if we have to generalize, water coasters count as coasters. All right, and then we'll move on to the next one. The layout of everyone changed. Sorry, Zoom issues.
Yeah, this is like our fifth meeting, I think.
Yeah, I know. Thank these guys so much for staying through this whole 2-hour Zoom meeting and dealing with my malarkey. So we talked about water coasters. Talked about it kind of depends on how much of the ride is floating versus rolling and coasting. So just for poops and giggles, for lack of a more profane way of putting that phrase, what do we think about log flumes? Now, I do not consider them credits. I definitely don't count them. But in the case of log flumes where there is not enough water at Jetstream at Magic Mountain, you are doing a significant amount of rolling and coasting, similar to a bobsled coaster.
Painful.
So I am ultimately going to say no. Because the intention is that you should be floating through 95% of the layout, even if it does have a track section in it. Sammy, what do you think about log flumes?
Yeah, no, I think they definitely don't have really any specific design coaster elements toward them.
Okay. Jeff?
I'd say the majority are not. Splash Mountain isn't. The only one where I have a valid question is with Dudley Do Right Surf South Falls, where you have a drop and then kind of an airtime hill into a splashdown.
Right, where you're completely for that entire time not floating in water. And I can see the argument for segments like that. I just think since more than 95% of the ride is spent floating,
Yeah.
Yeah. Also with the Splash Mountain, that has a section just like that.
Right, and there's
a drop and then an airtime hill right into a splashdown. Sure, it's not as pronounced as Do Right, but
even all traditional log flumes that have a drop have the drop is unassisted by water whatsoever. True. So technically they all have roller coaster-esque drops, but I think in the same way where you're not going to include you're not going to call a roller coaster a drop tower if it has a drop track. I don't think you're going to call a log flume a roller coaster just because it has a roller coaster-esque drop. Dorian, do you have any thoughts before we get to the vote?
Should we even ask Drew what his thoughts are?
Didn't we? Drew, do you have any more to add to that?
Well, I personally don't think they're credits and/or coasters, but I love log flumes.
Oh, log flumes are fantastic.
Log flume enthusiast.
Maybe
they're out there.
I'm in the same boat as Jeffrey. There is that one.
Same boat. I see what you did there.
Same log. Same log.
What's it called, Drew? Chiapas.
Yeah, Chiapas. Yeah.
That boy that has a reverse part and a drop and an airtime hill and crazy boy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I consider Disco Party.
Okay, for sure. So I think we're in the general consensus that log flumes are not coasters, but I think we also do. I think you correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we agree that there is totally a gray area, especially since
Yeah, there are definitely
there's
parts
some
of
really
log
good
flumes
ones and there's some really bad ones.
Fiesta Texas is another one that has a drop and airtime hill unassisted by water whatsoever. And then I would honestly even go as far to get as technical and say that water powering it through the course, if it is rolling on the bottom as well, water is powered by gravity.
Jetstream.
At Jetstream. But again, we're going to say that no, log flumes are not a roller coaster in almost every circumstance. Okay, we're almost done. There are these Schwarzkopf, I'm going to go ahead and call them flat rides straight out the gate, that are called Bayern curves, I believe is what they're called.
Yeah.
That you have at the likes of California's Great America in Berserker. And there was also one at Magic Mountain at one point. I forget the name of it that I wrote. It feels like a roller coaster, but it is turned by an arm. I'll put a picture on the screen here for those of you watching.
Also, there's one at Kennywood that is just called its namesake, a Bayern curve.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
So, Sammy, what do you think of these rides? I've already said my opinion. They're flat rides that feel similar to coasters, but they're powered with that arm through the entire layout. What do you think?
I don't know. I think just in general, it's considered more of a flat ride.
For sure.
Yeah, I think it's just naturally, it's not intended to be a coaster in a sense. It's intended to be a flat ride, or if that makes any sense.
Visually, very similar track and cars, but flat ride. Okay. Jeff?
It's definitely hard to explain compared to my other previous statements.
I definitely say it's a flat ride, but I will say that the speeds that you can pull on those things are absolutely insane, and they're really fun.
They're fun. Yeah.
I only had one ride on one ever, and it was over 10 years ago, but I agree, a very, very fun attraction.
And also, for how old they are, they can be really smooth.
They're great.
Yeah, well, it's Schwarzkopf, so, you know, definitely one of the smoother old manufacturers. Drew, do you have any contention with what has been said?
I mean, when I first rode Berserker at CGA, it was right after we rode Railblazer. We rode Berserker 3 times that day, but I would say it's a flat ride, and you could even argue powered coaster to a point.
Yeah, I could hear that.
Yeah, exactly.
But I would say flat ride, not a credit, but love the things. Wish there were more of them.
For sure, Dorian. But there you have it. No one thinks that's a coaster, unless I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong.
That's the end. Whee!
No. Okay. We have 2 more to go through. One of them is ridiculous. That is going to be a resounding no. I already know. Intamin first gen drop towers. I'm going to go ahead and say that
first gen.
First gen. So if you guys don't know, Demon drop at what is that, Dorney? And then again, Magic Mountain. Yeah, Magic Mountain had one that I had been on, and I think I'm going to go again with another viewpoint of I do not count them, but I think if I had to say objectively whether or not it is a credit, I would have to say yes, because unlike traditional drop towers where it goes from point A to point B, not moving at all, it is just linear, as Jeff said. Before we started making this a video, I'm going to say that it is a credit. Sammy, what do you think about Intamin first gen drop towers? Are they credits? Are they not?
I think it very much resembles a coaster in sort of a way, or that sort of stuff, I guess. But I think, in my opinion, yes, it would be a credit.
Interesting. I did not think we would have 2 yeses straight out the gate. Weird, I didn't even know my opinion where I'd land on it, because it is a weird, unique situation. Okay, so Sammy says yes. Jeff, what do you think, Mr. Science Man?
I'd say definitely yes. To me, it looks like it's a elevator lift that goes onto a drop track.
So we're already collectively a yes. But I agree, man. It's an elevator lift, and it has a drop and a curvature to flat. I mean, it resembles Superman Escape from Krypton.
Yeah, exactly.
If you think about it. Just with a lift as opposed to a launch. Drew, with all of our very controversial 3 opinions preceding yours, what do you have to say, bud?
I have no problem with people counting this as a credit at all. I think it's totally valid, totally cool to say it's a coaster. I mean, it technically fits all the criteria. I personally just still see it as a drop tower. I mean, and it's meant to be a drop tower. It's not meant to be a coaster, too.
Yeah.
But
well, I think this is I think this is a very rare instance where, like as Cliff was saying, manufacturer intention contradicts what people are saying in favor of it being a credit. Because Dorian, what do you think?
Verdict coaster.
Huh?
Verdict coaster.
Inverted.
Verdict.
Yeah, he's saying the verdict is it is.
Oh, I thought he said inverted.
No.
I'm like, well, if you think about it, in the station, it kind of has a track on top. It does. The track is on top. I'd have to rewatch some footage of it.
Technically, but no.
So wait, do we have 4 out of 5 people saying Intamin first gen drop towers are roller coasters? Okay, that is definitely not at all what I was expecting. That was almost unanimous. Okay, guys, thank you. We made it to the last one. Regular drop towers, and by this I mean your SNS drop towers, your Intamin 2nd and 3rd gen. I guess you could even include sort of Falcon Fury type of drop towers. That doesn't really change much except the seating arrangement. This one should be quick. I say no. I only bring it up because it is similar to a roller coaster in the sense that it has wheels on a track.
Oh, then it's totally a credit.
Yeah, but like I was saying, it just goes from point A to point B or point B to point A back to point B. I feel like for something to be considered a coaster, it needs to have an X, Y, and a Z. Or at least an X and a Y, whereas a drop tower only has a Y. So I don't like that.
Yeah, I think so as well. Definitely, it's not a credit.
Jeff, you already said your thoughts a little bit, but
no, and also I would be concerned about the seating style.
Oh, is it my turn to say whether?
Yeah, man, it's your turn.
Got it. Okay. Yes, totally. 100% coasters. 100. No, I'm kidding.
You had me there, bucko.
Yeah, I know, didn't I? They're drop towers. I mean, they are flat rides to me. I mean, you could argue that they're coasters for some of them. Depends on the drop tower, I think. Technically, some of them do fit, the definition of a coaster in some aspects. They have wheels. They ride along a set track, and they use gravity to an extent. But
leave your opinion in the comments below.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is the end of the video. Let us know what you think of all these opinions. This is not a definite list. I just thought it'd be interesting to kind of have a powwow and a vote.
Powwow.
See some differing opinions on what ride types are and are not coasters. But thank you guys so much for getting to the end of this video. Hopefully this one was easier to watch than the last one. Again, thank you so much to even Zach, who is in the first one, for putting up with this for a little bit. Thank you to Cliff for putting up with a little more of it. You can follow him at Analog Thrills again on Instagram. Thank you to Sammy for putting up with all of it. You can check her out at Q Review on Instagram. Thank you to Jeff the Fish for hanging out through all of it. Thank you to Drew, the constipated YouTuber. Dude, the face you're making.
Park Bros.
Definitely check out his channel at Parks Bros, as well as his Instagram. Y'all need to give his Instagram some love. Okay, never mind. Thank you for to Dorian. This is becoming a mess, and I am more than partially to blame, but go ahead and give that video a thumbs up if you liked it, 2 thumbs down if you didn't like it. That way, so I super know 2 or 4 or 6 or 8. Give an even number of dislikes. If you don't give an even number of dislikes, it's just not going to work. It's going to be odd. Let me know what you guys think of this longer format, less edited format. There's no way to end it other than saying this is the end of the video. Bye.